once you know and believe that you know you're indigenous to this earth, it means you have responsibilities now. Because people are oblivious to that. They think they don't have no responsibilities to Mother Earth, but we all do. So my ancestors prayed for that. They went 7 generations ahead, because there's a cycle. It's a spiritual cycle. Even the body rejuvenates in every 7 years, but we push that prayer forward 7 generations up. So it's what we do now is going to affect the future. What you think right now is going to affect your future.
Welcome to Purposeful Empathy, a show that is dedicated to amplifying the voices of people from across the globe who understand the world needs more empathy and are doing something about it. This season includes 25 incredible episodes devoted to the inner development goals. Based on the science of personal transformation, the IDG framework represents 23 skills needed for today's world. And of course, empathy is one of them. You won't want to miss a single episode, so hit the subscribe button now. Thanks for watching and enjoy the show. Welcome to a new episode of Purposeful Empathy. Today I'm joined by Doug Goodfeather, a Hunkpapa Lakota, born and raised in the traditional Indigenous ways of his elders on the Standing Rock Nation spanning South and North Dakota. Doug is the executive director and spiritual leader of the Lakota Way in Colorado, and he's co-founder of Spirit Horse Nation. His mission is to help individuals on their journey toward self-actualization. He works closely with PTSD-affected combat veterans and civilians, as well as those struggling with addiction, homelessness, and suicidal ideation. As a veteran himself who served 8 years in the military, Doug brings both lived experience and deep wisdom to his work. Doug is also the author of this incredible book, Think Indigenous, Native American Spirituality for a Modern World. And we will talk a lot about what's in this book because I think it's a sacred piece of wisdom. I've invited Doug to join the special IDG's series because as an Indigenous leader, I know he has a lot to say about long-term orientation and visioning, one of the 23 traits of the Inner Development Goals framework. So welcome to the show, Doug.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here.
I'm very excited. And before I begin the conversation, I want to take a moment to acknowledge that I'm taping this show on the traditional land of Kanien'kehá:ka, which has long served as a site of meeting and exchange among First Nations. And I'm grateful to the many generations of stewardship. I support all efforts to nurture edifying relationships with Indigenous peoples based on empathy, respect, trust, and cooperation in service to advancing truth and reconciliation. And for those listening and learning, I've put a link in the show notes to Canada's Truth and Reconciliation Report to learn more about why land acknowledgements are so important. Doug, I have been looking forward to this conversation for months because I picked up your book in Ottawa, Canada's capital city, in an indie bookstore that was actually selling my book. And I have long wanted to spend more time studying Indigenous wisdom. And I think this book is breathtaking in its significance at this moment in time, at this exact moment. We're taping this in February of 2025. I can't think of a moment more important than now to read content as important as you've put out to the world. And I just am going to share as a last thing, and it'll stop being my voice. I was taken by something you wrote on page 4 that says, "We're talking directly to you. This book is not in your hands by accident. You called these teachings to yourself." And every time I read that sentence, I feel a new wave of goosebumps. And I hope it's also an invitation for people listening and watching to realize that they too are being called to this moment. Do you want to share anything about that as we start the conversation?
Well, I believe in why I wrote that is in our lives, we have transitions, and sometimes we transition from the old us to new us, and those are called rites of passages. And we move into those as we get older, but as the energy shifts in this universe and the world, and we feel those naturally. We feel those naturally. And so when that happens, we also heighten. So we're evolving. We get heightened spiritually, mentally, physically, emotionally. So it pushes us to seek, as new things come into us, and we seek those new things, whether it's spirituality or work or education. We start a new chapter in our life. And a lot of times it begins from the inside out. So, but we always look for that. Why is that pushing it? What's going on? And you question yourself, and it makes you aware to, that change is coming. And a lot of times we look for answers, we look for help or guidance. And so we ask, I need help. And just by saying and thinking that, it brings it, that kind of thinking, because it's a natural law. It's a natural law that pulls us, comes to us when we need it. And a lot of times a lot of people they don't believe in that stuff. So they push it away or think it's a coincidence. And so, but when the body and the mind and the heart and the spirit needs to transition, they need to move, they need to live its purpose. It wakes up, it says, okay, it's time to do this. It's time to go to work. And, and if you don't want to move, something's going to come and make you move. So it's better to move with it instead of staying stubborn and prideful and stuck, and then always complaining about your job or your life. So that's why we complain about our jobs in life, because we keep ourselves stuck. We have to open that gate like that, and so we can move into that. But when we think like that, then teachers come, a book comes, a teacher comes, something comes, because the natural law sends those things, if that makes sense.
Oh, it makes so much sense. And I'm excited for all the viewers and listeners who are learning about you for the first time to experience this conversation, and then to go out and get a copy of the book and read it, because it resonates so profoundly with what's missing in our culture and in the ethos of what we're living in this world at the moment. The Inner Development Goals framework was a result of a conversation that a group of people had in Sweden around why aren't we achieving a more peaceful world? Why aren't we achieving gender equality? Why aren't we achieving more kids going to school and better health outcomes? Why can't we end poverty? Like all the sustainable development goals, we're just not making enough progress as a human species. Why not? And what they came to is that there's not enough inner work that we're doing as leaders to create the world that we all want for our children. And so the Inner Development Goals is yet just another framework to remind us, to whisper to us, like, what are we waiting for? And I feel like your book is like, okay, you're waiting for a little information about what our core nature is, what our spiritual nature needs to rise.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. A lot of times we stay stuck because all of our leaders are men. And so it's a man thought. We're thinking constantly, and everything's a man thought. And man can't create a baby. It can't do that. Only female can create life like that. But the man thought is coming in and blocking all of that feminine warriorness or leadership, but also it's the natural law that's being blocked as well because of arrogance and ignorance. And when that blocks the people, those leaders, as you see in our country, what has happened, instilled these kind of propaganda of hate speeches. And so people are listening to these things and believing in these things. And so as we sit back and witness this, we see these things constantly happen and people not doing anything about it. We're just letting it go, and we're just watching it, waiting for things to happen. It's like, one of the things that I've learned about nature is that if you're in the present moment of something happening, then you have the right to do something about it. So if you see an animal killing another animal and we say, oh, that's nature, leave it alone. But still you have that compassionate heart saying, save it. So go save it. Go follow your heart to do that. Protect it, because you're there for a reason. You're watching it. There's a reason why you're there, to interact with that, something happening. Same with us as humans. We need to follow our hearts to do something about it. And it needs to have, behind that, needs to have a courage behind it, but also a rational thought to make that action move to create change. And we're not doing that. Right now, what I see is we're just the standby effect. That's what we're watching. We're watching the standby effect until it's chaos, until it's worse, then until it affects the people that are for this, and then it's going to change. But until then, we're the witnesses, and we can do something about it. But a lot of us don't have that kind of, pull or influence in that way, but not in that way. But we do have an internal pull and influence through our prayers and meditation. And so it begins from us to start that connection outward to everybody, like-minded people, meditate with them, change that thought, change the vibration everywhere. And, as it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, we start influencing people like that. But right now, the influence is negative. So the energy is everywhere, and we can feel that energy. It's depressing, it's oppressing, and sometimes for some people it's hopeless. And, people are scared and confused. And, why do we do this? Why do we attack ourselves? Why do we hate ourselves as humans? Why do we kill each other as humans? And we're the only species on this planet living together on this planet, but we're killing each other. We're killing ourselves. We're going to war with ourselves. Why are we doing that? What's the purpose? Because one of the things I've learned too is that when you extinct a certain species, it affects the balance. And the same with humankind. If you extinct a certain species, it'll affect the balance. And that balance that was held back could be some kind of disease or some kind of sickness that will come and wipe out everybody. But together we hold that balance. We hold it together. We hold the energy flow, the medicine, the healing. But when we cut off like a limb, we can't use that. We're handicapped now. Now we're more susceptible to danger, to sicknesses, whatever. But that's why we need everybody. We need each other. And there's a reason why we're all created. There's a reason why we're all different. There's in different areas of this world, why certain races have this and trait and that trait. There's a reason. There's a puzzle that comes together perfectly, like all the stars and all the planets align perfectly. That's the same we're supposed to be. We're supposed to be like that, but the man thought came in and messed that up, because I want to control. I want this. I want more. I want this. When you do that, you start to starve everything and everybody, and that that situation affects us. There's a side effect to everything. Like Einstein said, there's a cause and effect, So how are we going to make this right? We have to cause good for good to affect us. We want good, we need to do good. So that's what I see is going on in this world. And we need to come together, because there's nothing else to do. I mean, that's the only thing I see is we're being pushed to see each other, to do something about it and make a better life for our children's children's children, and so on and so forth. Because one of the things I've learned about thinking indigenous is that we're all indigenous to this earth. And people take that out of their own context, out of their own mind, and they put themselves in a different category. Whatever that is, it could be a construct category, excuse me. And that's a controlling category. But I think indigenous thought is that we're together, we're community, we eat together, we laugh. That's why when you come into somebody's home, you feel that love or acceptance, you know, in somebody's home, you know, that's the way we should be. We used to be like that. Somebody knocks on your door, oh, you're ready. Oh, you're ready. Somebody's visiting. Oh, I'm so happy. Nowadays, you're hiding, you know, like, who's that? Who's at the door? Who's at the door? You know, we're scared of these things. What happened to that? We did that to ourselves. You know, we make ourselves sick, you know, and so we need to start understanding what the book says, you know. We have to come together and we have to make sacrifices and follow these laws of nature. And the laws are simple, and their love, their compassion, their generosity, their fortitude, their courage, their you know, humanity. There are dreams, there are our tears, there are food we eat. These are given rights we're born with, you know. And when you take those away, you know, you become handicapped. So, for instance, a lot of times growing up, man would teach you, grandpas or grandmas or even dads, you know, to say, don't be crying. What's wrong with you? Are you a sissy? You're weak and all that. But they didn't realize these tears were given to us. We came with it. We're born with them. That's why when something happens, we cry. It's the release of depression coming out of you. But when we stop that crying, that depression is pushed down. And other disorders come in. Other disorders, what is diabetes, high blood pressure, cancer, mind sicknesses, body sicknesses. That's what happens when we stop crying. Literally, it's proven. You know, we need to cry. And that's why my grandma used to always say, it takes a warrior to cry, because you need to understand the compassion of courage and why you use that compassion of courage to cry. Because when you see somebody that you never seen cry before, something hit him hard to make him cry. But all that life, it was hard until he cried. He got soft and kinder, more understanding, more, you know, generous, you know, his health picked up, things like that. So that's how I study things. I study our own culture. I go in depth with our philosophies, like our fire philosophy, our sweat lodge philosophy, the lava stones, the philosophy behind them, the buffalo, the philosophy of our buffalo people, the stars, the philosophy of the star people. All of these things, we have teachings in them. There's intelligence in them. And that's why when I went to college to be a counselor, we read a lot about philosophers from overseas, from Europe. But I couldn't connect. I couldn't relate. I understood what they were saying, but I just couldn't relate until I went back to my own people, our own medicine people, our leaders, our philosophers, our teachers. And I went in depth with their teachings and the intelligence that they put in it, and why we use certain things. Before computers were even invented, there was intelligence that would have and changed this world for a better way of life. But we didn't think like that. So now we're stuck in the man thought. If we stay thinking indigenous, we would have been so far past the future right now. I mean, the technology today, because you see, my peoples, what happened is that when they took our science and our math out of our mathematics, out of the Western teachings, and when they took that out and put Western constructs and concepts in there, it puts you in a box. They put you in a square box. But if you stay thinking indigenous, our math, even our equations, even our designs, our geometric, the universal patterns and the universal laws, have it all in our artwork. But if we stayed that way, our math calculations will look and be so much different, the way I see it, because I went in depth with a lot of our culture, and I wanted to see the science behind the ceremony, the spiritual ceremony, because I do a lot of lectures with logical, linear people that only think that way, because there's only people born that way who are logical thinkers, people that are only spiritual thinkers, and that's the way they don't want to mix it. But I'm born in the middle. I'm the balance. I feel like it. So I'm a logical and a spiritual thinker. So I went in depth with this, with our ceremonies, and I studied them. And I used me as the study person, and I learned a lot from that, from the intelligence and the quantum physics, the mathematics, the geometric patterns, the all of that came out of our ceremonies and our designs. I studied them, and I brought the philosophy and the teaching and the meaning out of that, the science out of it, and I gave meaning to it. So when I go do lectures, I can speak in front of a bunch of doctors or scientists, even though they come with their equations and their logical hard stance. I slip in their own teachings, their own things that they refuse to connect as quantum physics. A lot of times they block it, but you can't block quantum physics. You can't. It'll go through you. It'll go around you. It'll go right wherever it wants to go. And so when you teach that kind of philosophy, bringing that spirit, bringing the science out of spirituality, then people get it. They understand it. Then they relate. So that's why I wrote the book like that. I wrote the book the way it is. So I wanted people to relate themselves to everything on this earth, the responsibilities we have to everything, each other, and why it's so important to bring that. Because you can't have just one man or one leader be doing what they're doing to millions of people. You can't do that. It's wrong to even think like that. You need community. You need community, pockets of community that are willing to walk in this kind of manner of thinking indigenous, and to understand, or just to teach other people how that works, and a lot of people like have a hard time with that until they read the book. And I mean, I've gotten a lot of people calling me, people from Czechoslovakia they want to help. They wanted me to help them translate the book, but that's not my part. That's Hay House. So all of these things are really, the book came out in 2019, right when things started to happen. And it was really amazing, because I really had a powerful transformation at that time as well. So it just coincided with everything, and it just started moving. So,
well, yeah. Doug, I know one of the threads I really want to pick up on is the seventh generation aspect, because that's connected to the long-term visioning skill of the IDGs. But I think it would be really helpful for anybody who's listening or watching to know a little bit about you besides the bio that I read. I know that you personally, you've been on a vision quest. I know your backstory, having read it, but could you share a little bit about your journey as a human being and how you've come to really embrace your role as a leader and a healer and a teacher and a sage?
Yeah. People have to have an open mind and an open heart when I talk about these things, and to really understand where I'm going to come from on this. And because, our people went into a lot of, tyranny came into our lives and ripped us apart, ripped our culture apart, our language, our way of life. And we had to rebuild. But one of the things I've learned about that is the resilience and the adaptability humans have, and how powerful that is. And there was a lot of things that were stripped away from our people, and construct was instilled that really debilitated not only the health of our people, but the spirituality as well. And so as that came forward in time, and when I was born, my mother was, we lived on a little village called Rock Creek on Standing Rock Reservation in South Dakota. And my mom, was very poverty stricken, and so there was a lot of addictions, a lot of depressions, a lot of suicides happening. It was really depressing at that time, and I went into a foster care program for about 3 to 4 years, and it was like a horror show. It was devastating for me, the things that I went through to survive that. And I'm still surprised I'm still here, but there's a reason for that. And so as I grew from that, and the time from even education, it was terrible for me, because abuse, discrimination. We were having government workers coming from out of state that would come to the reservation and teach us, and they were very cruel. And you couldn't, their parents couldn't say anything, because the kids will get snatched away and sent to government boarding schools, and that was even worse. Some of them never came home. So, but so my parents really kept it cool with that, and so we went through that. I went through a lot of that. So I thought I was stupid. But it wasn't. It was the survival thought that I was going through that day. I was constantly thinking, am I going to survive today? Am I going to get hit today? I'm going to get beat today. So, my schoolwork really was impacted until I was about 19. Until I was in high school. Then it kind of like I bloomed, all my mathematics came out, and science, I was really good at it. So from that time on, I really envisioned myself out of that place. And so I did. I got myself out of the reservation. I moved here and there, but I struggled with addictions as well. Struggled with my own identity, fighting myself, going to war with myself. Went I went to Minnesota and back to the reservation, back and forth. And then eventually I found sobriety in my life when I was about 25 years old. And then my whole life changed. And then all the spiritual aspects of my life, of my people, came into me. But before that, one of the things I want to talk about, when I was a kid, I had two great grandparents, two grandpas that were very intelligent, very spiritual, very intelligent. And we used to go out and just sit, and they'd sing, and they'd tell stories. They were passing it. They were sharing me the songs and the history. They're passing the language, everything down to me. And I always wondered, why they would do that. And they were saying, because when you grow up, you're going to be something, and you need these teachings. So from all that time, I would sit and we talk about the stars. And my grandpa would say, look at the stars, but he was blind. And he would point out certain stars that he could feel. He said, I could feel where the stars are sitting. And he said, these stars talk to us. They talk to Mother Earth. And they communicate. All these planets are protecting us. They're protection of Mother Earth. They do certain things. If you study them, they do certain things to protect Mother Earth. And they send these signals to each other. To us, they're static, but they're a language to each other. That's what my grandpa was telling me. And he was at the end of his life. He was like 80 something, and he was blind. And my other grandpa he could see, so they were always together. They were brothers. And so they would teach me these things, these scientific facts and these spiritual facts that collaborated together. And so as I got older and went into college, I started studying these things, and I realized that what my grandpa was talking about was so powerful, so true, and that the stars have a connection through some kind of static connection that we hear, but it's a different language to them. And that's what I learned in college. And it was really amazing to me. So as my journey fulfilled in walking on my life, I'm just kind of skipping over parts of my life. I moved here to Colorado, and I joined the military. I got married. I joined the military. Right away, a war happened. I joined in 2000, right before, I joined in what was it, 99. And then 2000, we went to war and 9/11 hit. Oh, I joined it. Sorry, I apologize. I joined in 2000 and 9/11 hit, and then we went to war. So I was gone for about 5 years, and I got back. My family left me, my wife left me because, I changed, and I understood that. And so I had to go back into my spiritual aspect, go back to our leaders, our medicine people, and start my healing process. So I began in 2000. I went 2005. I went to a vision quest, and this is where this book came from. This whole organization I run came from. Everything that I do now comes from that vision. And the vision was really prominent because when I was working, and as you read in the book, I was in a ditch crying, and I was picked up. I turned around, there's nobody there. I had a dream. We call them spirit dreams. It was directed me to go get ready for a whole year. That's how we prepare for 1 year straight. You get your mind, you get your emotions, your physicalness, your spirituality ready, because it's gonna, vision quest really, really test you. So you got to get meditation right. You have to learn how to fast without water and food, because you're going to be fasting for 4 days without water and food. So you practice that. You practice that journey, the longest journey, the mind to the heart. You practice that journey, and you got to get things right, because they're going the spiritual part of it is that they're going to bring a mirror to you. They're going to bring a mirror and they're going to show it to you. It's in the mind, and you're going to start reflecting. You're going to start going to war with yourself. And so that's what I did. I prepared for that whole year, and then that year came. I went to the vision quest, and in that dream, in the vision, the spirit told me, he said, that was me that picked you up in a ditch. That was me that came to you in a dream to get you ready. And this is me now. He said, it's really good that you came. It's really good that you came. He said, but look, and he looked over, he pointed out, and that's when the ground rose, and all the people were chaos and fighting and at war. And he said, you people make yourselves sick. He said, in order for the people to heal, people must be willing to make sacrifices, to pick these ways up. And that's just the laws, love, compassion, that's it. And from that time on, it showed me the people that I to start helping. But it was so broad. And every time I told people, oh, that's too big, you're not going to be able to fulfill that, or it's not going to work for you, it's too much work. But it's only you. So I said, well, it's the vision. I got to do it. Because at the time, before I went to Vision Quest, I went back to college to be a structural engineer. And so I was going to college for that. But when I went to the Vision Quest, when I came down, the whole passion of being that went out the window, and this other passion was instilled in me. And so from that time on, I've been walking with this vision quest, and I brought it down. I brought a song, I brought the story, I brought the nonprofit came out of it, all these things, but it's still fulfilling me. It's still opening up. Okay, you finished this part. Okay, now it's this door. Now you got to open that door. So open that door. Okay, this work's coming. Okay, this is the kind of work. And start to study none. So it's like a room full of doors for me, the Vision Quest. But it's not a house. It's outside. And everywhere you look, there's a door, and you look in that door. When you finish with this door, you look in that door, then more work comes, more work. But one of the things that it tested me was that when my daughter passed away and my grandson, it tested me. And it really made me think a lot about what I was doing. But at the same time, it even emphasized the purpose, the meaning. And so it emphasized me to even get more in depth in it. So that's when I started writing the book in 2014. Started writing the book and working on the book. And in 2019, we completed it. But from that time on, I've been walking in this way from that vision quest. And, you know, and it has, like I tell people when I teach people, when you have a dream, turn it into a goal. And when it becomes a goal, you're going to see it way over there, maybe 1,000 miles away, or maybe even 1,000,000 miles away. And you're going to say, oh man, I don't know. But this is what I want people to look at first before you get down on yourself, because people are saying it's too broad. And I was letting them get me down. But you look at that goal and you say, oh, wow, that's a pretty broad goal. But what I've learned from my journey is on that journey, when you're going to that goal, you're going to meet all these people along the way. You're going to travel to all these places. You're going to go into ceremonies. You're going to experience all these different things till you get to that goal. And you're going to look back at it, and you could write a book then. You could write a book, because since that time I was walking with this vision, I went through a lot of suffering, a lot of, people could say suffering, I guess, but I went to a lot of growth. And in that growth, there was times where I wanted to give up. I got angry, but the vision was so intelligent. It didn't let me. And it was gentle and loving, because it will put people in my life to inspire me again. It will put animals in my life to inspire me. It'll put a river or a tree that inspires me. And people are like, how do you get inspired? Because you'll connect. If you think indigenous, you'll connect. You'll connect something. Like some people see two trees standing together and it looks like two people dancing. And you're like, wow, that is beautiful. That's inspiration. That's Mother Earth's emotion affecting you. See, people don't think like that. That's thinking indigenous. When you see that effect like that and you say, wow, are you hear the water running? And it soothes you, because water is the healer. It's the medicine. Or you hear a breeze hit you, and then you feel an emotion, and that's Mother Earth's emotion connecting with you. So this is how I've learned to understand this thinking indigenous, and on my journey like this. And so that goal brought me, it was an amazing journey. People, I look back at it and all the things I've been through, my daughter's death, healing from PTSD, losing my family. But I also met somebody else too that is the love of my life now, and I'm so happy. I have a family. You know, this journey has helped thousands of people heal. It has picked up people from the ground. It didn't matter what color they were, what language they speak. It picked them up and embraced them and let them know, hey, we're here, we care. I'm another human being caring for you. So come on, let's do this. Get up and pass it on. And I see that. I picked up doctors and lawyers that were homeless. I picked people up who became doctors and lawyers, engineers, and it was the vision quest that did it. And if I gave up, all these people wouldn't have got help. All these people, this book wouldn't have been written. So every time there's a spiritual purpose for you, and there's spiritual warriors with you that are guarding you and helping you and guiding you. You have to learn how to talk to yourself, talk to your spirit, because your spirit's here to bond with this body and have this experience. So talk to it. It knows everything. Your spirit knows everything. So you can just ask it in the air and you can get your answer walking down the road with something inspiring you. So this is how we think. We think outside the box. We use that sacred geometry movement because we're all thinking like a box. Don't think like that. Think circular. Everything's never ending then. It's always moving. Everything is always moving because that's what energy is, constantly moves. So this is how I talk scientifically, but spiritually, with indigenous thinking, and how that is. But all these teachings I've been through from the time I was born was only a teacher for me. I could go back into it and be depressed and feel like a victim and blame and shame, but where would I be? So I took everything, all these emotions, all the abuse, all the things that happened that were terrible, I took them and I looked at them and I opened them up. I took it and I opened it up. I said, oh, okay. Okay, this is what I went through, this abuse. Why did I go through this abuse? Okay, I'm going to learn that abuse. Okay, this is why this person was abusing me, because that person was abused, so on and so forth. So it was embedded in that person that was used to it and just constantly was angry or frustrated, did not know how to get it out. And that's how they got it out, by abusing, by hurting, by frustration. Didn't want to, but did it. So I looked at that and I said, okay, I'm going to take this teaching, and somebody's going to come to me that has that same issue. Now I know it because I grew up with it. It was instilled in me. I went to college for this logical thinking, but the experience is the more impactful one. So I took it and I used that for a healer instead. So it's not abuse no more. Now it's a teacher. Now everything I've been through becomes a teacher. Now I'm not a victim. Now I don't blame and shame myself. I'm proud. I love myself. I love this work. Even though some things that come through, if I need to cry, I'll sit down and I'll cry. I'll let myself cry, get it out. I feel better afterwards. Continue my journey. Okay, here comes another person. Oh, I've been through that too. So I'm going to teach you this. I'm going to teach you how to come out of this. So one of the philosophies that I teach is the buffalo philosophy. And that's going into the storm, because the buffalo, we represent the buffalo. One of our greatest philosophers is the buffalo people. And I use them as the longest journey. Their philosophy is the longest journey, the mind to the heart. And their other philosophy is to never leave a warrior behind. And so when you become a warrior, it means that you're doing something for people. You don't have to go and become this extravagant, do all this. No, the warrior begins with love. That's the way I was taught a warrior is. Begins with love. Begins by taking care of your people, the family, the people. And the only time the warrior goes out for war is to protect. And that's it, But from then on, the warrior protects, watches over the family, provides, becomes a balance with the companion in the home. But the home is matrilineal. So the woman dwelling she's the queen, and if you go into her home and she says jump, you say how high. No, I was kidding. But these are the kind of things that I've learned and grew up with. That what I teach I experienced. I went to college, yeah, but the experience came from my life, and so I use them as teachers now. So they're some of my greatest teachers, is my experiences, and I've learned to do that in helping people, because when you help people come out of getting stuck, you're literally creating that person to be another warrior for somebody else. So a leader should be building other leaders. Mm-hmm. A leader should be always talking good. If somebody is guiding you, that guide should never talk about anybody bad or anything like that, because that becomes a manipulator. Then a leader builds other leaders, picks them up, teaches how to raise people's vibrations, build communities. So that's what a leader is about. That's the way my great-grandparents taught me, but I learned it as well in my life and walking this road that I've been blessed with. And so the things that I've been through in my life are powerful teachers, and I can relate with a lot of people and help everybody. I've worked with all walks of life, and the experience I've learned about that is that we're all human beings. We're spiritual beings having a human experience. And these experiences take us from one place to another, and it's a choice you make through that experience. And so we're connected. We're all of a piece of each other's puzzle. And we fit in each other's lives at the perfect time and moment. And that's why it's important, because as human beings, we're raised in different ways. We have experiences that are similar but different ways. So I see the humanity in us. I see the love in us. I see the spirituality in us. I see the human spirit just always, so when we come together, it really helps a lot of people. And one of the things I've learned from my grandma, she said, we seen this tornado, and I said, why did those tornadoes come? And she said, because it's going to bring us together. I said, what? It helps brings us together. I said, that tornado, it's destruction. And something so powerful, just that simple thing, is that she said, if that tornado goes into a village or a town, it's going to rip that town apart. And all of a sudden, the people start coming out after the storm. They come and checking on each other. And all of a sudden, they start helping rebuild. That storm brought people together because maybe at this half of the town is feuding with this half. Maybe this relative is fighting with this relative. But that devastation came and brought them together. And it's in scientific fact that chaos and atoms create life. It's amazing. It's crazy how you think, how that is. Inside of chaos, there's growth, there's evolution growing. And maybe this chaos is gonna push us into another hopefully a peaceful time, but we have to wait and see, or we have to do something about it.
Woo, Doug, I'm just so grateful for you sharing some of your life story and sharing how you were called to reshape your life and learn from your experiences as teachers in order to help teach others. It's such a powerful testament to what it means to sort of kind of surrender to what our purpose is about. I feel, one of the teachings that is important within most Indigenous cultures, I think all Indigenous cultures, is the idea of the 7 generations. Can I read from your book? Because
Sure.
I think I'll just share that the Inner Development Goals framework looks at one of the skills that we as leaders should develop is long-term orientation and ability to formulate and sustain commitment to visions relating to the larger context. Okay. So that's what they call long-term orientation and visioning. Mm-hmm. And I feel, I'm curious to know what you have to say about that, but from your own words, you write, the old ones say that we do not inherit the earth from our ancestors, but that we borrow it from our children. To live life according to the way of the 7 generations means to think and act in such a way that each of our decisions and actions is made with the deep consideration and wisdom of our ancestral past, our eventual impact on Mother Earth, and the future lives of the unborn. The 7 generations include both the 7 generations that preceded our life and the 7 generations that have yet to come. So why, in your mind, if we're talking about thinking Indigenous, why is it important that we as humans consider 7 generations before and after?
Well, once you know and believe that you're Indigenous to this earth, means you have responsibilities now, because people are oblivious to that. They think they don't have no responsibilities to Mother Earth, but we all do. We all have a responsibility to her and how we treat her and take care of her. So my ancestors prayed for that. 7 generations, they went 7 generations ahead, because there's a cycle. It's a spiritual cycle, and a lot of spiritual practices. The 7 is one of our sacred numbers. And so even the body rejuvenates in every 7 years, but we push that. prayer forward 7 generations up, so that what we do now teaches that 7 generation till it gets to the 7th generation. And we're now in that 7th generation. We're in that 7th generation. So is what we do now is going to affect the future. What you think right now is going to affect your future. However it is, how you act on it, whatever it is, it's going to affect it. So how do we affect the future? We have to start now. We have to gather. We have to start preparing what we're going to do for okay, this is what my future, this is what my plan is for my son, or his daughter, so on and so forth, and their children. So we want to plan that. We want to pray and envision that they make it there, and they're in the process of how we build it from here on out. And so a lot of times when we prayed for that 7th generation in the past, we came through war, we came through chaos at that time, but we survived it. And then now, again, here we are, and there has been war and war ever since then. And now there's only peace from 1973 till maybe 92, and then 2003, and then, now here we are again. Here we are again, thinking of war, man thought again. So we have to sit down. We have to really focus on how this is going to be for our next 7 generations. So we put forth that, just like writing an affirmation. You want that for the future. So you instill these teachings in your children as well. Keep them strong, keep them strong-minded, moving forward, learning the given rights that we're born with. We're born with given rights that even therapists and counselors take it out of you and give you a pill. So you have to understand how important it is to really teach your children about how you think, how you eat, how you take care of yourself and take care of each other. Because like I said, you're going to affect the future somehow. So you want to affect it in a healthy way. So start with the children, teach them good values and virtues, be a good role model, walk. Of course, we're not perfect people. We make mistakes, but those mistakes they're our teachers. And this is what I teach. Sometimes our mistakes are not just for us. They're for people in the future. And so, and people get like, how do I, because when we make our mistakes right, it's just the only way. And how I learned to make my mistakes right was just be a good human being. That's it. A good human being. And that goodness and the intelligence of goodness, it brings it to make it right. And we move forward. So, when I've learned that 7th generation, how that passes down, and like they brought this sacred spirituality that came, there was a story behind it. And there was a white buffalo that brought a sacred story to us, a covenant that was given to the people. From that time on, we've been learning from that teaching and walking with that teaching. And then that teaching that came, it brought so much intelligence, so much logic and science and meaning to, this life. And that just, people don't understand that. Just, it came from a spiritual aspect. And so we're working with spirituality at the same time with our physicalness, our mentality, our logic, our linear thoughts and everything like that. And we're trying to, a lot of times, make sense of the things that we learn, our experience in life. And sometimes we play them off. We play them off like, oh, I don't believe in that. But you witnessed it. So what is it? You want evidence and it's showing to you, but then you blow it off because it wasn't, you're stuck in this logical linear thought. You're not willing to open up. So when that happens, we close off a lot of things. So we need to open up. We need to start teaching these teachings to our children, to people, to keep moving this and give logic and reason why this is going to be a better future for us. And well, this is what happened. This is how I healed. I came through a chaotic time, but one of the things that I came through was I came through this chaotic time, but I came through it and I survived it. I brought teachings out of it. I brought memories out of it. I use these memories not as a torment, but as a teacher. Because when you heal from something, you don't forget it. You use it as a teacher. Now it doesn't bother you. Now it doesn't affect you, because now you took all of the pain and suffering and you looked at it and it looked like a book.
Doug, I want to also talk about empathy. This is a podcast about empathy. On page 75. Can I read what you wrote? And maybe you can tell me what this word means. Can you see that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's a little harder for me to pronounce. Can you say it again?
It's wo chantugnake. It means that I feel what you're feeling inside. I know, understand what you're going through.
Empathy. Okay, you write, to internally understand what another is feeling will serve humanity well. But when we want to do something about how we're feeling, that action is called empathy. The most direct path to empathy is to realize that the other person or being is us. Empathy is when we take action to change another person's experience because we feel compassion for that other person. Empathy allows us to take action despite another being's species, race, nationality, or social class. When humanity engages our collective sense of empathy, we can move mountains.
That's awesome. Yeah. You know, I always see people like on the streets signing, they have their signs up. And I use my empathy to have compassion for them, because I used to be homeless too. I was homeless before. So I know how that feels. And it takes a lot of courage and humiliation to stand there and hold that. But I don't know that person's story, so I don't judge them. So like I said, I picked doctors and lawyers up from being homeless and addicted, and I help them. So I don't go around judging people. Instead I help, and when I help, just like that, the effect of that comes back right away. But at the same time, to impact somebody's life by with your empathy, with your doing something about it, or being generous or kind, it shows that person your humanity. It gives them back their identity of humanity, because when people are homeless, they go back into the animal instinct, because it's for survival to the fittest on the streets. So they go in and people are shunning them away. People don't want to talk to them, push them away, judge them, even hurt them. So people get timid and they don't even want to talk. They begin to talk to themselves. And then we start calling it, now that person has a mental disorder, but they just got used to talking to themselves. And then we see that, and right away we judge them, categorize them. And so people get pushed away. And then we think, I want more people to be, I don't want to live around these homeless people or around these people. I'm going to move out to the suburbs. All of a sudden, there's homeless people living out there. I thought I got away from this. But what happened is we didn't do something about it. It was showing for you to do something about it. It's a hint. These are hints that we're born with. We're born with emotions that are so intelligent that they just blow me away sometimes. And I mean, some parts are sad, but I learn from those too. And I just get blown away from some of these teachings I get, these little hints from nature, from Thinking Indigenous. Okay, well, I feel that person. So today I got a few bucks extra. I'm going to help that person. And then that person, you may, oh, I don't want to give that person any money. Might just use it for drugs, or alcohol or whatever. But when you think of giving it, that's all you think. Just give it. Don't judge. Just give it and go. Don't judge that person because we don't know their story. They might go down the street and help another homeless person, or saving it for, maybe their kid is homeless with them, but they have him in a hotel room. So he's begging for not only food, but a place to stay for maybe his kids or for himself or somebody else. So we have to think outside the box. We can't just right away judge. So right away, we do that a lot. We don't have that. We're getting numb to that. So a lot of times when we see this world changing, it opens up emotions. And people talk about spiritual awakenings. That's just another emotion opening up. Another, like I say, all these doors, and every time you open a door, there's a teaching or a duty or a purpose you need to fulfill there. Same with this, these things come out like this, and it gives us purpose, give us meaning, give us reminders why we came to this earth. And we practice these empathies. We get good at it. And all of a sudden, we start an organization. All of a sudden, opportunities come. So this is how it works. This is how this natural law works. As you move forward, as you start helping people, you're going to get help. Opportunities going to come, and things like that. So that's why I always say, you want good, do good, and it comes back to you. So empathy is really powerful. It's a powerful emotion. It's a generous emotion. It's a feel good emotion, because when you help somebody, and for me, it makes me feel good. And and I don't go around saying, well, I'll charge you $2,000 for your therapy session. I don't do that. I raise money to help people. Sometimes I don't even have the money to help, but I do it anyway, because it's the empathy that pulls me. It wants me to do that. So I listen to it. And out of that, it brings something else. I'll say, well, here, this is your blessing. And it's powerful. But we don't think that way. We get tired, or I got no room. I got no time. I got to go to work. I got a meeting, this and that. It takes only minutes, seconds to do something kind for somebody. And once you do that, you begin to change the world. But it begins from you. It begins from you. And as we know, sometimes a lot of people, I always hear a lot of people say, I got a lot of skeletons in my closet. Well, open them up. Let it clean it out. Clean it out. That's what it needs to do. Use your tears. Clean it out. So if that makes sense.
Makes so much sense. It makes so much sense. There's a part of me that's on the call with you saying, I'm gonna hold it together until the call is over, and then when we say goodbye, I'm just gonna cry myself a river. I'm so alive and electrified from this conversation. You speak to me in such a big way, Doug, because I wrote a book, and before I get into the content of the book, there's the preface of the book, like, why did I write this book? How did this book come to be? And I talk about it, the nudges from the universe. That's what I call them, the nudges from the universe. And then there's 3 specific ones that I talk about in the book. But I continue to get these little nudges from the universe. And it's just really affirming to speak to somebody who knows what that is like and is much further along in the growth and in the journey of teaching. I still think I have a lot of work to do to walk the talk. I think I know conceptually where I want to be spiritually, but I think I have the hard work still to do to like unlearn some of the mindsets and ways of being that I've been conditioned to. I did my first Vipassana retreat where it's 10 days of silent meditation. I want to do a fast. I've never done a fast before. I've never done a sweat lodge before. I've never physically pushed my body in a hard way to know what it's like like to run a marathon and to feel what could open up in my consciousness. I'm very attracted to the idea of plant medicine as a way of experiencing different consciousness. So I feel very attracted to, I think the reason why this book really spoke to me is that I cannot, I worked on a new website, okay? Because it's time for me to sort of put out to the world what I think I've learned and where I'm at, because I want to be a speaker and a teacher as well. And I found myself in a mission statement, like writing my moonshot mission. My moonshot mission is to help humanity elevate its empathic consciousness, which sounds so bold. It sounds so audacious that it's almost absurd, you know? But I feel like there's so many people on the planet that are doing that work, and I'm just one member of that community that's trying to help us pay attention to the nudges, or what you called what you
Hints.
have the what?
The hints.
The hints. We're speaking different two words but the same thing. And I think that the noise of the world that we're living in makes it hard to hear those hints and nudges, or because we are so conditioned by the way that we're living in the world and the messages that we get, that we don't believe that these are real messages that we're meant to act on. But it is so affirming to speak to you, because I really understand what you're saying, and it's inspiring to me. It's inspiring to me. And I just want to say thank you.
You bet. You're welcome. Oh, you got to go?
No, I
Oh,
want you to say something, and then I have a last question, and
okay.
then we do have to go.
Yeah, speaking of nudges and hints, like you say you're getting ready to go to work, and all of a sudden frustration hits, you drop your key, you lose your key, all of this, and you're like, I'm late. But all of a sudden you're like, okay, you finally got it, getting ready to go, and all of a sudden something happens. You get more frustrated. You're trying to go out the door because you're late for something. Finally get out the door, finally driving. All of a sudden you see this big old car accident. But because you lost your key, because of that, it missed you. This is the universe. This is working for you because you have a lot of work to do yet. We're not done yet. That's why when I talk about the mourning process of a death, people have a hard time with that. They get stuck in that depression. I learned a lot from my daughter and my grandson's passing. It was really a powerful moment. Looking back of it, it was a beautiful process of mourning. It's a 1-year mourning process, but it was beautiful. But don't get me wrong, it was hard, but I learned so much from it. And I learned that, that when somebody dies, that was meant for them, not for us. It was their time to go home, not us. So we take that memory and we use it and remember them forward, mourn them, cry for them, reminisce, heal, go through that process of mourning. That's another whole story, but we get stuck in that. And when you get stuck in that, somebody has to come and get you out. And so I do a lot of that work as well. But one of the things about that process is that we blame ourselves a lot. We blame ourselves of somebody else's passing, but we didn't have nothing to do with it. But we still somehow we blame ourselves. But it's not for us to judge that or to blame ourselves, because it was that person's time to go. That's the decision they made for them to go at that time. But if it was our time, we would have went, but it's not. That's because I'm a combat vet. So I teach that to combat veterans, and that, your comrade was meant to die there, whether you like it or not. So what are you going to do about it? You're going to sit there and cry and blame and shame yourself and feel guilty? Or are you going to do something about it? You're going to live your life forward. You're going to take your comrade's memory, and you're going to, create something, start an organization or campaign for him, raise some money for his family, make it make it a reason, a purpose, a meaning for. So a lot of times, people come to me and want me to heal them. I'm going to heal you. Help me heal. And I tell them, this is what gets people. I'm not a healer. I said, what? I thought you were a healer. I said, no, I'm not a healer. I'm just here to get you unstuck. And then you become your own healer, because we're the only ones who stand in our way. I can talk to you till I'm blue in the face, and it's up to you to accept it and use that teaching. If you don't, you're going to stay stuck. So that's why I say I'm not a healer. I teach you how to heal yourself, because we know how to do that. But our confidence we're not confident enough, so we don't believe in ourselves. I need somebody else to help me. But when you teach somebody the power of yourself, self-actualization, they bloom. You show them all the given rights to practice that you're born with. They bloom. People bloom.
Last question, Doug. Oh, this has been such a really soul-affirming conversation with you. Thank you for taking all this time. I end the calls by asking the same question to all my guests, and that is, if you can think of a moment in your life when you were on the receiving end of empathy and what that meant for you.
One, my recovery from addictions, that one of the one prominent one was when I was in that ditch, and a spirit came and picked me up. That was very promising. I mean, that was very prominent, and it was so powerful for me that somebody came from a different dimension, was willing to do that, to come into this world, to physically make themselves physical, to pick me up and to give me that hint. So powerful of a hint, to turn around and see nobody around me but me. That was something that was impacted me as empathy. But at the same time as recovering, there was people that came to me and helped me and stuck their hands out, and they're here to help you. And it was these ways, our spiritual ways, that picked me up and helped me. And so I always look back at my life, and I look at all the times I came close to death, where I should have died, even in combat. I was standing against this wall, and I moved, and they fired into that wall, and the wall was full of dirt, and my imprint of my back was on it. When I moved, it was riddled with bullet holes. So if I stood there a few more seconds longer, that would have been me. So things like that, make me realize my purpose in life and reasons why we're here, and these times of near death, really made me think about all the things that I've been through in my life and the reasons why I'm still here. And, one of the things I've learned about that is that this journey of life, you're born with this purpose, and you're given these rights to walk forward with, and everything that you come in contact with is going to be a teacher somehow, some way, whether it's bad or good. And you take it and you use it as a teacher for others, because that's what it's meant to do. If we hold that, then we're being selfish, even though it's bad. I don't want to share the story. It was terrible, but somebody's going through that too. So you're the teacher for that person. You're the healer for that person, to get them unstuck. So these are the things that I've learned in my life, that these spiritual connections, these mysteries of the great mystery that come in and inspire us and blow us away, gives me the purpose and hints that our Creator is beside me, protecting me, that warriors are beside me, protecting me. Because all these times I could have died, I didn't die. I could have, I should have, but I didn't. And I know why now. I know why, because I see all the people it had picked up and helped and gave meaning and purpose for, and a lot of times we seek the answers. We seek our questions. We seek the answers to our questions, and we travel all over the world. We go to this guru or that guru or this teacher, that teacher, or this professor, but they're just giving you outside answers. Your answers are in here. Everything you need to know is in here. Everything, every intelligent question you have, ask yourself. You will answer it somehow, some way. You will answer it. Or go into your dreams, because our dreams are like near-death experiences. We see loved ones over there. We go to the spirit world. We connect. We bring things out, answers to our questions. So, as we journey on this in our lives, we're going to continue to experience these things. We're going to continue to meet people that are doing the same work. Some people their light is a little brighter, because of the wisdom, but us at the same time, because of the process they came through that was so powerful, hard, you can say. So their light's a little brighter because the emphasized was and became a very powerful experience that it brightened their light. So a lot of these things we see a lot of spiritual people and healers, but there's people fooling people out there too. And so we have to be careful of that and take care of each other. And that, our purpose together is to make this world a better place for our children. Like my grandpa, Chief Sitting Bull, said, let's put our hearts and our minds together to see what life we can make for our children. And that's our purpose. Each other, all of us, to put our hearts and our minds together to see what life we can make for our children. Empathy and logic,
Woo! I have nothing I can say in addition to what you just said, except one word. I wonder if you could share with me how to say thank you in Lakota.
You say wopila.
Wopila.
Yeah, that's the broad thank you to everybody. Wopila.
Wopila.
And but I got a website. It's LakotaWayHealingCenter.org.
Yes.
If people want to donate, because the book, when they buy the book, it goes back, and all the proceeds go back into helping the organization. I'm also a clothing designer for Faraday brand, and their purchase everything goes back into the organization to continue to help. And
does that have a website?
No, you can go onto the website and it's linked to it.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you purchase the clothes that I designed and the blankets I designed, all that proceeds go back into the nonprofit, continue to help the people.
We will include all the links in the show notes so that people can visit your website and read your book and maybe order a beautiful blanket. Or is that top that you're wearing one of your designs?
Yeah, this is one of my designs.
Love it. I've been looking at it all the whole time and wanting to show you that my wall is the same as your wall. Look at this color.
This blanket. Oh yeah. This blanket too.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Yeah, I designed that blanket as well.
Oh, Doug, I feel so much gratitude in my heart for this time that we've spent together, more than you could possibly know, well beyond the scope of this podcast. So thank you.
You're welcome.
And I hope one day to meet in person.
Yeah, I'm planning on having a conference next year for this kind of work. So keep in touch and maybe you can come out.
I would love that. I would love that.
Yeah. All right.
All the best to you. Have a great day. Take care, Doug.
You too.
Bye-bye.
If you know someone who'd benefit from this episode, please share it with them. Post the link on your socials and hit the subscribe button now. The world needs more empathy, and you have an important role to play.